Isn't it so funny? Like us fitness coaches don't always practice what we preach to other
Well,
people.
I would never, right? So it's just one of those ones. Routine got out like of track, and I got so deep into work. And by the time I went to sign off, like my brain was just going and going and going. So I got like 4.5 hours of sleep.
Yep.
And then so the next day, then I was out of rhythm. And I was like, let me just unwind by watching some TV. Then my circadian rhythm got out. I was like, oh my gosh, like,
You got to
so
get out, go for a what I call a circ walk. So first thing in the morning, get that sunlight in your eyes, get the circadian rhythm reset, and then early to bed today, hopefully, or tonight, hopefully.
yeah,
But
I do love though when we're just gonna go into it,
yeah.
like whatever. But like I love it when people say get sunlight first thing in the morning. Like I don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, where is the sun up right
Oh, you
now?
wake up
Like,
that early?
yeah.
Oh, you're a go-getter. Now you're putting me to shame. I feel bad. I'm like 6:30 alarm.
Yeah, I'm like when I hear people like Huberman, and we're not going down that path either, say
No,
that,
no,
I'm
no.
like,
That's really another conversation for a different day.
Mike Dola's been handling that one just fine for us. So, he's have you seen his stuff lately on that?
Who's?
Mike Dola?
Oh, Mike Dola. Yes, of course.
He's
Yep.
been taking that one on full charge. So,
Okay, well, I've apparently been missing that then because I would love to see what he's been saying.
if you have him on Facebook, like
Oh,
he
I
has just
don't.
been berating, like annihilating Andrew
Okay, I
Huber.
will go on Facebook just to see that because I really do not spend any time there at all. But
Yeah.
continue.
So yeah, it's pretty funny.
So what were you saying about the sunlight and Hooverman?
Well, just like I need some. I feel like So my morning routine. Do I have one? Yes. And it's pretty straightforward, right? It fits me.
Hmm.
You know me, right? It's wake up. Like most people probably go to the bathroom. Like if you don't, you're weird. But um, and then like I do my Bible time, and then I do my prayer, and then I do go into like a little bit of personal work that leads me into my client
Hmm.
stuff. Like that's my morning
Yeah.
routine. And there's coffee as well, like copious amounts of coffee to the dome.
Cup
So, yes,
cup number
queen.
two, decaf. But oh yes, cheers,
Yes.
friend. Where
But
would we be without our coffee?
like if I listen to all these people, I'm like, okay, so do I do the ice bath or the sunlight first? Do I do the ice bath in the sunlight at 4 a.m.? So I need to create my own sun, but have my feet grounded to the grass. But while this, like, wow, what?
Each their own. I mean, I think when it comes to a morning routine, you have to make it something that fits you and your
Right.
lifestyle. It
Yep.
doesn't have to look like anybody else. And I'll be honest, I do some of those kind of like biohacking
Hmm.
things, but it works for me. So there's a woman,
Yes.
her name is Karen Nordine. She's got a great account, PhD in behavior change. And I even took her a course of hers on building a morning routine, and she calls it more a morning experience. So it doesn't have to be a 10-step process. It doesn't have to look like what all of the influencers are doing. It's just whatever that is going to, whatever's going to feel good for you and kind of like, get you in the right headspace. For her, it's drinking coffee and scrolling Instagram. Like that is literally her morning routine, and she has no shame around it. Right. So a lot of people would say, like, oh, no, don't look at your screen an hour before or an hour after, I guess, you wake up, but that doesn't work for everybody. So,
No, and that's not realistic for most people. And is it, you
right.
know what I mean? Like find what works for you. That's the key, whether it's morning routine, whether it's diet, whether it's your exercise, like what works for you. Great. Keep doing that.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of shame with people. I hate, shame is such a heavy word, but for lack of a better one, they see what other people are doing and they feel like they need to be doing that as well. And it's just not conducive for the season of life they're in, or again, even what they enjoy. Like, I meditate every morning. Some people would crawl out of their skin if they meditate, but no one has to meditate. Like, it's not a requirement to be a healthy, happy person. Are there benefits? Sure. But if you are going to have so much resistance to doing something, then the likelihood of you being consistent or even like frequent in that behavior is going to be, minimal. And then, are you really even getting the benefit out of it? So,
Right? Like if you're ice skating uphill to get peace of mind, it's
ice skating
probably not
uphill?
working.
Ice
Yeah,
skating, that's pretty much impossible. So
right. I know it's like people try to put these overly complicated things in, and it's legit. I love that you use the term reduce the resistance. Like when we reduce resistance, we are more likely to stick to it. Now, we just had a live question. What's a better way to stop desiring junk foods, which leave bad impact on our health? I would say can leave bad impact. Let me add that nuance there. But Marcy, you want to handle that one?
yeah, it's perfect timing because I was doing a client check-in yesterday about something very similar to this. And, in her past, she has eaten more, let's say not unhealthy foods, because I don't believe in the good, bad, healthy, unhealthy. There's more nutrient dense, less nutrient dense, calorie dense, less calorie dense. That's, the definition that I like to use because it does kind of take away that negative connotation, which I do feel will lead to people overeating at some point because they are putting something off limits. And anytime something is off limits, and I think you did a reel about this maybe last week. Um, and like if you say, well, don't think about this or don't eat that, then you're just going to want it even more. So I think first and foremost is just the allowance of that. So give yourself permission to eat those foods if you want. But going back to what my client was saying, so yeah, in her past, like she was eating more of those. And she has a partner, and her partner's family eats very poorly. So ton of junk food, hyper palatable food. And she was saying that she was with them over the weekend and it was just, all around. She's like, I really wasn't even tempted because I enjoy the healthy foods that here I go again saying healthy, but you know what I mean, for lack of a better term. But like, I enjoy eating the proteins, the veggies, the fruits, all of that so much that it's kind of displaced that desire for those other foods. So I'm not saying give them up completely, but rather than, oh, I need to take those away, it's what can I add to my diet that's going to fill me up, be satiating, kind of control those cravings. And then I think your desire for those is going to diminish. And then the other thing is setting your environment up for success. So I don't like restriction. Don't bring the foods into the house. I mean, sometimes, like in the beginning, maybe you do need to do that for a period of time. But I think the ultimate goal is to build self trust. So, yes, bring those foods into the house. But if you feel like I'm having a hard time avoiding them in a weak moment or when I'm overly hungry, what you can do is keep them out of sight. So put them in your pantry in an opaque container, maybe on the bottom shelf where you can't see them. They're still there. So if you really want it, you can have it, but it's not the first thing you see when you open the pantry door. Yeah.
I love those tools. I love those tools, and it's so true. And a lot of times, what I have found in working with people too is I actually have a reel waiting for this. It's not my normal style. I actually got very fired up yesterday,
Oh,
right? Like,
more fired
yeah,
up than you usually do. I can't wait to see
like
this.
this was no, this was aggressive,
Okay.
which I get fired up and excited,
Yeah.
but like not normally like fired up and aggressive. And it
Yeah.
was actually it's a controversial topic, but it was you are not addicted to sugar. No, you're
Oh,
not.
okay.
Like I
Right.
went into it, but we do love to hear like that we're addicted to sugar. And my take on it is, okay, well, I'm going to put a bowl of white refined table sugar in front of your face. Are you going to eat it? Nope, you're not addicted to it. Leave me
Can
alone.
I can
Like,
can I cut you off and tell you a really funny story? Not even
did
a
somebody
story.
do that? You did that.
Okay, so two things. When I was a little kid, my parents had a bar where their alcohol was, and they had those little like C and H sugar cubes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
And I would steal those, like, every so often I was eating the sugar cubes. And then, my mom, she doesn't listen to these things, so I'll throw her under the bus a little bit. One time I came home, I was probably like, I don't know, 10 years old maybe. And my dad and I had been out together. We come home, and my mom was sitting at the desk doing some work, and she was eating brown sugar out of the box with a spoon. So people do it, man. It's, I don't think we weren't like addicted, but it happens.
It does. You're not going to typically see that like if you had done that to me with the drink, like I would have gone off. Like
Sure.
if you had done that to me with cocaine, like I'm doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And but there was no ability to control it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. So, now what we see, like that was just a funny diversion, but what we typically see is when people are eating more whole nutritious foods, when they are prioritizing lean proteins, when they're prioritizing those things, getting the nutrients, a lot of times what we see is when we're going more toward those hyperpalatable foods, i.e. the junk foods, it's you're not, I like to phrase it like this, like a love language,
Mm,
right? So if your love language is words of affirmation and quality time, but all of the quality time that I'm giving you, I'm on my phone and paying you no
mm,
attention, and I'm touching you, but physical touch is last on your list, you're never going to feel loved.
so true.
So your body has love languages as well. And those typically look like micronutrients, whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and lean meats. So your body is just saying, okay, when you're giving these hyperpalatable foods, these junk foods, your body is saying, okay, you gave me something, but that's actually not what I need. That's not loving me. And it's
Hmm.
going to keep telling you to give it, gimme, gimme, gimme,
Yeah.
with the hope that you'll actually give it what it needs.
So, have you heard of something called the protein leverage hypothesis?
No, you
Okay, this
caught me
is
on one.
fascinating. And I just learned about it a couple of months ago, I think from Gabrielle Lyon, who is a protein researcher. So she's huge following all over Instagram, talking about the importance of protein, building muscle. And apparently there's this, hypothesis, but I think it's more than that at this point, where, we need a certain amount of protein per day, and your body will eat until it gets that amount.
Yes.
So, for many people, especially women, the clients that I coach, I'm sure the ones that you do too, like they just don't have an appetite for protein. They don't enjoy it as much as they do carbs and fats for whatever reason. It makes me full. I don't like meat. I mean, here I am like having to consciously not undershoot, but like not go over my protein target. I'm like, how is it so hard? But to each their own, right? Personal preference. So I think that when someone is not eating enough protein, but they are gravitating towards the more highly processed foods, so the crackers, the breads, the cookies, the candies, whatever the case may be, then they're not getting enough protein. So like their body doesn't get that signal, oh, I'm full, I've had enough. So they keep eating until that protein requirement is met. So no wonder why, I mean, one, those foods are delicious. They're really easy to overeat because they kind of override your brain's I guess dopamine system, so to speak. But so you're going to want more and more, but also there's like an underlying physiological mechanism that, hey, I haven't hit my protein needs, and so I'm going to keep eating until I do. So it doesn't allow you to be satiated.
So I actually had heard that. Just did not realize that was the terminology.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, it's with clients that I work with, when we typically start, outside of the behavior modification part, but when it comes to diet, with most females, I really don't crave protein that much.
mm,
Well, is it that, or you don't recognize the cue that that's what you're craving? So
mm.
that's another thing too. Like, how are you supposed to know that that's not what you're actually craving when you've never provided it to your system in enough quantities anyway?
Yeah.
In the same way that like, if you're raising a child and they had never been exposed to something, they don't know that that's what they were missing this whole
Mm,
time.
hmm. I always say you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. So good. It's so good.
It's
I
so
say it on like every podcast. I say it to all my clients on things like, but it really is true. I did not coin the phrase. I just, I use it all the
I'm
time.
here for it.
But
You
but
can
yeah,
use it.
until so you don't know what you don't know. I also say that most people don't understand how good they are meant to feel. They just have, grown accustomed to having a little bit of bloating, not great energy, maybe some brain fog, all of that aches and pains. That just becomes their new normal. And it isn't until they make the changes. So they eat more nutrient dense foods, they include more protein in their diet that they're like, oh my gosh, like this is what it's meant to be like. Who knew? And then now it's a lot easier to keep up with those behaviors. Yeah.
100%. And we use, I call it coping, right? Like if you think about with food, we do
Yeah.
use food as a coping mechanism. But when coping is another word of saying limping, coping is
Limping?
not limping.
Okay.
You, when you cope with something, you haven't actually handled it. You just
Mm,
learn to live with it. And so
yes.
a lot of people are like, I'm operating at 100%. No, you're operating at 100% of what you think you're supposed to be operating at, but it's actually 60% of your potential 100%.
Right.
And because you've lived there
Yes.
so long, you don't know the difference. You've coped.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I thought you said limping, like LIMP. Like my dog is limping right now
That's
because
what
he's
I'm
15
saying.
years old. Oh,
Yeah.
it is. Okay.
But
I was like, is it limping or living? Okay, got it. Yeah.
no,
So you're right.
limping,
Coping
because
is
that's the
limping
thing.
through life.
Yeah. But here's the thing. He's done it so long. That's just how he walks now.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Oh,
know the difference.
I know.
But aren't most people that way too? And it breaks my heart because they're like,
Yes.
yeah, I feel fine. You're not meant to feel fine.
No, you're meant to feel good and healthy and vibrant and energetic.
Mhm.
Even in even as you get older, I think a lot of people, maybe the clients that you coach, certainly the ones that I do in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, even sometimes, they use just that whole like, oh, well, it's all downhill after I turn a certain age. And this is just how aging is supposed to be. I was like, I turned 40 in January and I feel better than I did in my 20s. So if you take good care of yourself, if you have positive, I don't even want to say coping mechanisms, but positive outlets in your life to deal with the stress, the overwhelm, because, and let's be honest, we all have it, but you can feel a lot better. And that can add to your life, give you more energy,
100%.
vitality, all of that.
Yep. I turned 42 in July, and it's, I mean, I'm operating at a higher frequency and at a higher rate than I've ever operated
Mm-hmm.
in a total like function. Is my cardiovascular health better than when I was in the military? No, but like every other system is better. And
And I bet you could get it back there if you wanted to.
maybe I don't
I
want
don't
to. I don't feel like
want,
putting
yeah,
in
I
that
probably
effort.
wouldn't want to either,
No,
but
I don't want to do that. Like that's just not something I'm willing to do.
sure.
Right. So, and that is interesting because most people, oh, but my metabolism dropped once I hit 40.
No, no,
No. Or maybe yes, but what did you do to cause it to
right.
drop? Because as we know, I believe it 60 or it's 60,
60.
65 between that. The metabolism
Yep,
doesn't naturally drop until you're about 60,
right.
ladies.
It's all lifestyle. So not moving enough, and that's not even working out, but it's just the activities of daily living. So going for walks, standing instead of sitting. Like right now I could choose to sit, but I am standing up. I'm moving my body. I'm kind of rocking back and forth. I'm using my hands. Like all of that takes calories rather than
Neat.
just sitting at a desk or like sitting on the couch. So that definitely does something. And then resistance training as well. So making sure that you are maintaining or building the muscle. Now, I think that it's overblown in the fitness industry, especially online. Like, oh, you got to lift weights to improve your metabolism. And it's like, it really doesn't burn that many more calories. It's pretty insignificant, but every little bit adds up. But I do feel the more muscle that you have, the harder you're going to be able to push in the gym, the stronger you will be, and like a stronger kind of like bigger engine burns more calories throughout the day. If you have more muscle on you, if you are more fit, you are going to be more inclined to move more than someone who is not, who doesn't have as much energy. Yeah.
100%. I love it. And I really thought we were going to talk today. I didn't do my intro, by the way. Everybody, this is Marci. Whatever. We just went for it. I know that we're both short on time because you have another client check in and my podcast went over, but you posted something today that I have got to
Oh
address
yeah.
because, oh my gosh, like trying to get my ladies to go into an intentional caloric surplus, i.e., gain some fat on purpose. Why would I have my clients do that? Why did you do that?
Why did I? Okay, oh gosh, this is it's quite the story. So I won't bore you with the details, but essentially, this is back in I think 2016. So it's been a while at this point, and I was dating a guy who was a competitive power lifter. So he deadlifted 800, he squatted 1,000, like he was legit. And, it seemed very like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like mesmerizing at the time. Like when I met him, it was like, oh, but I soon, and this was like my own kind of like demons and wounds. When I got into the relationship, I realized that like I felt as though I lived in his shadow. And he got all the attention because of how strong and successful he was. I'm like, well, like my ego like wanted a piece of that. So I decided to put my physique goals aside for a period of time. Like I'm going to go to his gym where he trains and I'm going to be a power lifter. Not like that I wanted to compete, I just wanted to train to get stronger. And so I walk in one day and I talk to his coach, and the guy he's interviewed me for 2 hours. Like this place was intense. Have you ever heard of West Side Barbell?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So like West Side Barbell, Louis Simmons, like Louis was this guy's idol. So everything we did was based around the conjugate method and like just that hardcore mentality. It was kind of like a cult, so to speak. And so anyway, like I think going against my intuition or maybe what I knew was like best for me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna get strong, I'm gonna like show him how successful I can be. And he took one look at me. He's like, yeah, I mean, you can lift here if you want, but you're going to have to put on some weight because you are way too small. You have no reserves. Like, if you were to get sick, it would be all bets off. I personally felt really good in my body at that time. Like, I'm just a small person. Like, I have a small frame, right? Like, a small bone structure, whatnot. Like, yes, I've been overweight at some point. But yeah, I was feeling good at that, or when I was, going in there. So anyway, I immediately become like super fearful because he's telling me that I have to gain weight. And he, and I said this in the post, he goes, because he kind of knew that I had like a disordered eating past from when I was in college and whatnot. And he's like, I know what you're going to try to pull this, like, I'm going to gain half a pound, 1 pound per month bullshit. And he's like, that ain't going to fly here. He's like, you will gain as much weight as I tell you to in the time frame that I tell you to, or else you're out. And I was like, okay, sure. So I had 3 months to, I think it was gain about 15 pounds. And I would come in 4 days per week to lift, and he would put me on the scale every single time to see if I was on that trajectory. It was so toxic, and it was awful, really. And I would literally be like in the car driving over there chugging water, like a liter of water, just so I could look or appear on the scale a little bit heavier. Anyway, so it comes to my like weigh-in day, and I think like half a pound away from where I should have been, and he kicked me out. I had like literally do the walk of shame out of the gym in front of everybody. Um, and he's like, I think I approached him after that because again, ego got in the way. And I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll gain the weight. And so he's like, okay, sure. So like I did. I put the weight on, went back in there, and it was awful. Like, yeah, I would never do that again. But to answer your question, the intention of me gaining weight is so that I could be stronger, so that my leverages were better, so that I could recover better, all of that. Yeah.
Wow. So that is way different direction than I really fully thought we were going to go with that.
That's
that
the
is a
story.
mind blowing direction. I'm glad I wasn't prepared for that because I'm just
Yeah,
like, oh my God, that is disgusting.
it
Like
was.
that is so gross. Like if you will, on the complete opposite of that, any people that listen to this later, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that Marcy's probably never going to do that to you, and I know I'm never
Yeah.
going to do that to you.
No,
But why
no.
would we ask some of the ladies we work with to go into a caloric surplus at times?
Well, because I think a lot of times they've been spinning their wheels for years. So they've been trying to, crash diet or live on very low calories. I think 1200 is the typical number that we throw out there. And they're not able to build the muscle if they are not in at least maintenance, if not a surplus, because muscle does require energy, a surplus of energy, in order to be built. So yeah, if you're going into the gym and you're working really hard, but you're not providing your body that nourishment and the fuel, then it doesn't have the building blocks to put on the muscle. So, can it be uncomfortable? Yeah, of course, especially when you're used to like chasing small and skinny or being as lean as possible. I mean, I certainly did for a long time. Like I said, I wanted to build the muscle, But as soon as I got a little bit of body fat showing, it's like, oh, I'm out, go back into a deficit. Because yeah, I think that's just the message that we have been given for so long, is that is what a female should look like. Someone who is, smaller, leaner, doesn't take up space. And yeah, so we're just always going after a smaller number or a lower number on the scale, staying really tiny. But if you want to have, more curves, more definition, more tone, like all women say they do, well, that does require to have muscle. Now, with, little enough body fat to reveal that muscle. So you have to go through seasons. And most women are just in the season of constant dieting. So we have to spend a lot of time getting uncomfortable, putting on some weight, yes, gaining body fat so you can train hard, so you can build muscle. And then once you have that foundation, now use a short caloric deficit to reveal what you have built. Otherwise, you're going to keep spinning your wheels. And I've written about this many times where I said, if another round of dieting has not produced your desired look, what's going to get you there is not another round of dieting. It's to put the brakes on that, go, right? They think, oh, I just got to get a little bit leaner, and then then I'll have that tone. It's like, no, you don't have anything to show at this point. So, mic drop.
Yeah,
What do
it's
you want to say about it?
what she said.
Yeah.
For once, this is actually not an inappropriate phrase. That's what she said. Like it literally is like it's exactly it. And it's so hard. And it's as a man, it's what you don't understand because you're a man. I don't understand all of the psychological things, no, but I have been at this for 16 years. I do know how science works. I do know how this works. I do care, right? You know that we both do tremendously.
Yeah.
And it's going to require, like, whether men want to admit it or not, most of us don't, like, I don't want my abs to not
Mm,
show. Like,
yeah.
and so it's nobody's asking, okay, this isn't true. The two of us are probably not asking you to go put on 15 pounds of body fat.
No,
It's
no,
going
no,
to
no,
be like
no.
a 10 to 15%, 15% at max
Right.
surplus.
Right.
That's it. And let me put this in perspective. Like if I if your maintenance calories, if your day to day walk around not gaining or losing, which is I know probably not a season that most people have been in, but if your maintenance walk around is, let's say, 2,000. I know you probably think it's 1,500, but it's probably not. But let's say it's 2,000. What does that surplus look like? Like like 2 cups, 2.5 cups of blueberries and
Yeah.
an apple. Like two,
Yeah.
like that's it. It's
Couple
not a lot.
tablespoons of olive oil. Like you can eat that real
Like,
fast.
like,
Yeah.
like what you think is one serving of peanut butter.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So another caveat to this, and I want to say it before I forget, is in my experience, I gained a lot of body fat and not muscle. So my physique did not look how I wanted it to.
Right,
And the reason
right.
is because he forced me to put that weight on so quickly. I mean, we'll say like a build should be a minimum of 6 months. Mine was three, but 3 pounds, or excuse me, 15 pounds in 3 months on someone who is 5'2", like that's a lot of weight in a
No,
very
that's
short amount of time.
ridiculous.
And
That's
you're not building 15 pounds of muscle in 3 months. Like I'm lucky if I would ever build that, throughout my training history or training career. So yes, like it was the majority body fat, but you can go a lot slower so that any weight that you do gain, maybe it's 5 pounds, is going to be a greater ratio of muscle than it is fat. I mean, I'm not going to say like you can maintain your leanest self doing it. Like, yeah, body fat is going to come on, but I mean that it might even be healthier for you. You may be just like too lean for your own good and you don't realize it. And that's why you have no sex drive. That's why you have no energy. Your digestion sucks. You're not getting any stronger. Like some body fat, especially for a woman, like, it is necessary, which, can be hard to hear. But again, any fat that you are uncomfortable with, you can always take off. And then you repeat the process. So don't do it like
100%.
I did. Yeah.
No. In no way, shape, or form, I'm suggesting that even for a man. Like,
Right.
at all.
The dirty
At
bulk. I
all.
did the dirty bulk, but on really clean foods.
Yeah, it's really, no. I'm not doing that either. But it really is, as a caveat, if your goal, to summarize what Marcy just said so perfectly, if your goal is to be toned, to have that curvy physique, that feminine, classic feminine physique, your dream body probably weighs more than you think it does.
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately.